Advertising is everywhere you look, from billboards high over the city to subway walls well below ground.
That's great.
Advertising is what fueled the growth of Young and Rubicam from an agency to Y&R Inc., the parent company of several businesses, ranging from public relations to marketing. Sitting at the top of this conglomerate is Chairman and CEO Peter Georgescu. He grew up in Romania knowing little of advertising, but a lot about persuasion. In 1947, Georgescu became a casualty of the Cold War. As a child, he was trapped in Romania, separated from his parents when the Iron Curtain came crashing down.
My father became a dirty bourgeois capitalist imperialist. I think that was the right nomenclature at the time for those dirty Amerikansky dogs. And my brother and I were left with my grandparents.
And you were
in Romania.
How old?
I was about 7.5 at the time.
The brothers' destiny changed overnight from a life of privilege to barely surviving, working 6 days a week in a Romanian work camp. It took almost 8 years and intervention by President Eisenhower to free the brothers in 1954. The story of their release made front-page news across the free world. How did those 8 years in that work camp form the man that you are today?
I think I learned an enormous amount of strong values, work ethic. I know what work is about. And you do it and you don't complain. You've got a job to do, you go do it. And interestingly, even in those days, I took pride in my job. I was going to prove those people wrong. I was going to excel.
True to his word, Georgescu made up for lost time. Once in America, he entered school at his grade level, though he couldn't speak a word of English, and passed. He became the chairman and CEO of Y&R Inc. by the age of 54. For many, that would be plenty for a lifetime. But Georgescu is now busy revamping the ad side of the business, doing away with the standard 15% commissions, emphasizing instead the concept of pay for performance.
At the end of the day, there's one simple criteria for success: results.
Young and Rubicam Inc. posted billings of $12 billion in 1996. More than half of that comes from its advertising arm. Overseeing all of Y&R Inc. businesses is its chairman and CEO, Peter Georgescu. Georgescu understands the persuasive power images can have on selling products.
Is this an original?
I think, yeah,
you think this is one of the...
You can feel the ink right on it.
Yeah.
He experienced this personally early in life when pictures and U.S. news accounts of his imprisonment in Romania eventually won him his freedom. Tell me about your childhood in Romania.
I had the good fortune to be born at the start of the war in 1939. I look at my past, which wasn't always easy, in many ways as a blessing, because clearly it helped shape the person that I am today.
Peter's father, Rico, was a top executive for the New Jersey-based Standard Oil Company, and he was an outspoken opponent of the Nazis. When World War II broke out, the Nazis arrested him. They were spying. They were acting as...
Well, yes, they were part of the resistance during the war.
Very risky.
Very risky business. He faced this firing squad 3 times.
Your
Literally, my father did.
After the war, Peter's father returned to Standard Oil. But in 1947, when his parents took a business trip to the U.S., the Iron Curtain slammed shut, leaving Peter and his brother behind in communist-held Romania. You're a 7.5-year-old boy experiencing this?
Yeah. Well, for a while we had the love and caring of my grandparents, and then in 1948 they came and arrested my grandfather. He was 79 at the time, and he disappeared somewhere in the gulag of Romania, political prisoners. Never saw him again. And shortly thereafter, my brother and I, my grandmother, were taken and put in a sort of a quasi-work camp situation. They took a room from a family, and they delivered a bunch of hay. That was our bed, and we went to work. Every day we had a guard outside the door, And we went to work, and we worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
What did they make you do?
Well, I cleaned sewers for 4 years.
8-year-old boy cleaning sewers?
Yeah. I was little, you see. I could fit. But there was a benefit to that, you see. That was recognized as very hard labor. So food was rationed. And it was rationed depending on the degree of difficulty.
Your grandfather's disappeared, never to
Right.
be seen again. You're uprooted, put in this hay-filled room, all three of you, no school, no books, no nothing. How did you survive that?
I was a rebel. I decided I didn't like those people. They tried to browbeat us, and particularly me. And I have this vision of myself back then as a little dog, you know, that would go for your ankles. It won't let go. You just clamber onto your feet. They yelled at me, and I'd yell back.
After you knew they could disappear you if they wanted
Of course, but I'm not sure I really realized that at the drop of a hat I would disappear as well.
For almost 8 years, the Georgescus tried desperately to free their sons, spending $250,000 in the process. One day, Peter's father was approached by Romanian officials here in the U.S. He was told if he wanted to see his sons again, he would have to spy on the U.S., a land he now considered his home. He took his plight to the FBI.
After an awful lot of consideration, he said, there's only one strategy that we can suggest, and that is go public with the story. Create a public scandal, one that would be so large that even the communist regime in Romania, and of course the Russians who were the puppeteers for the Romanian communists, that they would be scared to kill the kids.
Whoa, what a choice.
So there seemed to be little else to do, so they went public. And in a matter of hours, it became front page New York Times, the networks. It was a global story.
The boys' luck changed when Senator Frances Bolton from Ohio saw the story and made it her personal crusade.
She was also a personal friend of Dwight and Mimi Eisenhower. Yeah. And she went to them and said, Ike, you've got to do something for those boys. You've got to get those boys out. And so Ike did.
Peter Georgescu and his brother Costa emerged from the dark of Romania and were immediately thrust into the spotlight. Their flight to freedom and the United States made front-page news nationwide.
We landed, and there were literally probably north of 100 photographers and press people, police, sirens, cacophony of sounds and hysteria. Of course, not a word of English. And these tall buildings, big tall buildings, you know, and then there was ice cream. And that was wonderful.
And seeing your mother again?
It was very emotional, of course, on both sides, as you can imagine, particularly for my parents.
Within weeks, the brothers appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show and tossed out the first ball at a Brooklyn Dodgers game. The head of Exeter Academy was so moved by their story, he invited Peter to attend on one condition, that he pass. Not an easy task for someone who could barely speak English.
So that's how I got to be a sophomore at Exeter. And fortunately, I did pass.
Within 3 years, Georgescu went on to college at Princeton University, then Stanford Business School. Fortune would continue to smile on Peter Georgescu.
A prepared mind always benefits from the opportunities that unveil themselves by serendipity.
The ability to respond quickly to changes in the marketplace helps businesses gain their edge. Peter Georgescu is constantly on the lookout for ways to keep the Young and Rubicam advantage in a worldwide market. Y&R is a company that in 1993 announced its fourth restructuring in 8 years. So I take it you have a strategy that's going to leave all that in the past.
We will constantly evolve the way we're structured. I think that is the way of the future. We'll always seek to find new, better ways to be more intimate and more responsive to our clients. And very often that will require restructurings. And we haven't seen the last of those. This is an evolutionary process.
Y&R continues evolving with a deal that is a first for the privately held company. You did something that had never been done in the 73-year history of Y&R, which is to take on a minority partner. Very closely held, employee-owned company. Why did you decide to let Hellman and Friedman come in?
Well, I think we have to adjust to the times. We have great aspirations as an organization, and we have to stay current to the new rules of the business world. And the new rules suggest that companies like ours need to have access to the financial resources to make acquisitions.
Are you building a war chest?
We are building a war chest.
Where are you going to battle with this war chest?
We'll do battles in the new media world for sure. As soon as the haze clears up.
Georgescu already has a glimpse of the new media world, a frontier with internet ads and global marketing. He is focusing his sights on the future of the advertising world.
The world has changed. Business is not done any longer on selling one product at a time. So you have to build relationships with customers. And the way you do that is through brands.
Maybe you ought to explain for me and for our viewers what you mean when you say building brands. You offer something called a total brand experience. What is that?
Let's think of a brand as a contract between a manufacturer and the consumer.
Example?
Any brand, Ford, United, American Express, AT&T. And what these brands or these manufacturers are telling the consumer is, you can expect from us a consistency of quality every time you use our product or our service. And very often we're saying you need to pay a little bit of extra money for the benefit of using our product because we give you that special added value. So that's the contract, if you will, that defines what a brand is.
Headlines have chronicled the highs and lows of Georgescu's life, from his euphoric flight to freedom to the devastating death of his colleague, Tom Mosier, who in 1994 was murdered by the Unabomber.
Tom had been away from home for a couple of days on a business trip, came home, there was a package for him, which Susan, his wife, gave to him. And he couldn't open it because it was wrapped with string. So Tom said, I think I'll go to the kitchen to get a knife. And at that moment, baby Kelly ran away from Susan. So Susan went to fetch Kelly, and Tom went to the kitchen and opened the package.
The only reason why all three weren't blown up.
That's right.
You must have spent countless hours thinking of the motive. Why this man? Was it a client that he was representing? Have you come to any kind of satisfaction?
I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's important to reach closure on the issue and to find answers to this. On the other hand, I feel for Kim and Kelly, and importantly for Susan, about the travail that they will go through all over again to relive those horrible moments. So I wish them peace.
In today's politically correct world, Peter Georgescu often finds himself defending his controversial clients, like tobacco giant Philip Morris.
I think that you want the most responsible companies to do advertising when it comes to very delicate subject matters like alcohol and tobacco. It takes a sense of responsibility and integrity to deal with the delicate issues of the time.
And that's not a cop-out at all?
On the contrary, I'm suggesting it is not a cop-out. I think it is a cop-out to ignore that issue and to run away from it. So we do not.
You're CEO, chairman of one of the largest companies in the world, advertising companies. Are you still hungry?
Oh yes, every day. I'm hungry. But as one advances in age and experience, I'm hungry to get things accomplished. It's not about titles, it's not about promotions, it's about being the best that one can be.